In Excel Module 3, we are going to be working through a spreadsheet that is going to project a financial situation for a 6-month period. We are also going to use the data that we have in this to see what changes might possibly be made to improve the bottom line at the end of those 6 months, that 6-month period. So we'll be doing some formatting as well. We'll be working with a chart, and some of these things will be similar to what you've done before, and some of them are going to be quite different than maybe you have ever seen before with an Excel spreadsheet. So we are going to begin by putting in our worksheet titles. So we'll come up to A1, and this is NOLA Department, Stores, and then in A2, six-month financial projection. We also need to apply the slice theme. So we'll go to our page layout tab, go to the themes button, and then we will find the slice theme. Now we will have all of the correct colors as we go through working on this. We're going to put the months of the year here in row 3. So we'll go to B3 and we'll type in the month of January. Now, once we have this entered in here, we are also going to rotate this text. We want to rotate this so it is at 75 degrees. So to be able to do that, on your home ribbon, you have in the alignment section a button here for orientation. You can use that for most things, but it's only going to have presets to a certain degree, and that's not what we want here. We need to have a 75 degree. So for us, we're going to have to use our dialog box launcher button in our alignment section, and then we are going to take our little button here where that red dot diamond is, and we're going to move that up until it gets to 75. Now, if you're not real great about getting right at 75 by using your mouse, you can always just type it in, or you can use your up and down arrows as needed to get to the 75 degrees. So we'll click the OK button. Now that we have that set the way that we want it to be as far as rotating it, we are going to use our fill handle so that the rest of the months are filled in and rotated at that same degree. So we're going to go over to G3, which is where we'll have our months, or our month of January, or I'm sorry, of June. So now that we have all of our months of the year in there, one, they are all spelled correctly, and two, they're all rotated, so you don't have to do those individually. We'll go to cell H3, and here we're going to type the word total. When you press the tab key or the right arrow key or the up or down or enter key, you'll see that it already that changes the word total to match that 75 degree angle or rotation that we had on the rest of the months. And then in I3, we're going to type the word chart, and the same thing, it will apply that rotation to. to that as well. All right, the next part of your textbook, it has you change your boundaries or your column widths. So we're going to change the column width of column A to 35.8. So again, you can click and drag over to the 38.5, or you can right-click and choose column width and type in 38.5. So now all of our months of the year have moved over to make room for that larger first column. We're going to go to column B and select column B through G. And with all of these selected, we are going to set all of these, and you can go to any of these lines between each of these. We're going to set these to 15. So now all of those months are set to the 15 width. We're going to come over here to A4 and we'll put in our row titles. So A3 is going to be left blank. A4 we'll type in revenue. And then we'll type cost of goods sold in A5, and then our gross margin. Come down to A8, and we'll type in our expenses. We have a bonus, salary, site rental, marketing, and miscellaneous. Then we'll have a total for our expenses. And then we'll go down to 16 and type our operating income. We need to indent our cost of goods sold. And our expenses here. So we could do them all at once if we wanted to select all of them at once. You can also select one, and then we want to use our Increase Indent button. This is in your alignment section of your home ribbon. So we can click the Increase Indent, and then we can select the rest of these and do the same thing, do our Increase Indent. Let me change that spelling correctly there. So now that we have all of those typed and indented as they should be, we are going to copy some of our expenses. Well, actually, we're going to copy all of the labels for our expenses, and we're going to put them down in a section called What If Assumptions. So first of all, we'll come down here to A18 and we'll type What If Assumptions. Now you need to make sure that you get the hyphen in there and the spacing and everything just right. Then we're going to highlight bonus, salary, site rental, marketing, and miscellaneous. And you can copy this. You can hold your control key down and drag it down here to 19. However you want to do that, do a copy and paste or click and drag. Now, because we already have these indented, we're not going to have to work or do that step again down here. So, all right, so our what if assumption section here is going to be used. We're going to use the information we put over here in column B to come up with our cost of goods sold and our expenses, our different expenses that we have here. But we also have some additional information we need to add to our what if assumptions area here. So we're going to have to insert a new row. We need the word, or we need sales revenue for a bonus to be added between row 19 and 20. So what we're going to do is we're going to select row 20, and then you can click on the heading here for row 20. Right click on the row heading, and then you will see an option to do insert. And that's automatically going to insert an entire column for you. Now you can also do this from up here on your home ribbon where it says cells. You can insert a sheet row there if you want to. What we're going to type in here is sales revenue or bonus. So this is how much dollar value we have to have in sales in order to get the bonus that they are offering. Okay, we're going to also insert a row above bonus, so above between 18 and 19. So we're going to right click row 19, and then we're going to insert, and this will display a shortcut insert options button that pops out here. And because our what if assumption is formatted differently than our bonus, we need to tell Excel which formatting we want it to keep. So we'll click on the little drop-down menu there, and we want to, the first option is to format the same as above, so it would be formatted like this, but we want to do format same as below, so that way it will keep that same formatting that we have for those expenses that we put in there. Then in A19, we'll type in the word margin. And when you tab or press your enter key, arrow key, whatever, when you type the word margin, it's automatically indented. Your textbook does talk about inserting columns. In addition to inserting rows, you can insert additional columns. I would highly encourage you to always only insert entire rows or entire columns, or if you're removing them, to remove entire ranges or entire rows or entire columns, and not just remove specific cells. Can mess things up quite a bit, getting things out of alignment that maybe have some formulas or functions applied to them. While we have our what if assumptions data or headings filled in, we need to put the data over here in column B. Now, when we enter the information here in column B, we are going to type it in with format symbols. And the reason that we do that is when we type in, for instance, the first one is 81.25%. If we need to change that number later on, we won't have to format it as a percent. It will automatically have that formatting with it. So we're going to type in our dollar values here, or our monetary values here, or most of these are percent values. So 81.25, and then we're going to put the percent sign to show that that is a percentage. Our bonus, if we make it, is $5,000. We don't use dollar signs in this, but we do use the commas and the decimal places. So our sales revenue for bonus, we have to sell $1,250,000 worth to be able to get our bonus for each month. And then our salary is 20%. Our site rental is 10%. So you might have noticed that I put the 2 decimal places in the first time because I had a 25. The second time I put it in, even though I have no decimal places, no information in the decimal places. For marketing, I put in just, I'm sorry, that was for site rental. I put in just 10 and then put the percent sign. And then this will be 3.5% and 3.5%. So once I format all of that, or I could type it in. I guess I should type that in with the 2 decimal places since that's what it shows. Or you could increase the decimal places there if you do it the right way. So, all right. So now that those are formatted properly, if we need to change them later on, they should be formatted the same way. This next part that we're going to do here is for each month, we're entering the projected monthly sales for that particular month. And they have them divided with commas, probably just so it's easier for us to type them in. I don't think any of them have cents, so we probably could leave that off and just make that happen whenever we get the formatting done. Or you can type it in if you want to. All right, so let me go back here and see, because I think this one I need to have comma there instead of a period. All right, so I could go ahead and add 2 decimal places here so they're all matching now. And then we're going to go up to cell H4. This is where our total will be. So we can click our sum button up here on the auto tab. And if you click it twice, we'll just go ahead and put that number in there for you. So let's double check it and make sure that it says if it doesn't match up with what we have in the textbook, then we're going to have some issues that we have to go back and make changes to, and mine do not. So let me see. 470, 500, 405, 1186. Up here, I missed this one. This should have a 1. Okay. 1498. 10. 101 or 1102. All right, see, I'll get it right here. 1102. 900. All right, so I was really off. 7,808,300. That's what we should have. Now that I got that all cleared up, because I can see what that screen says since I made it bigger. So then we can come up to H1. This is where we're going to put in our date. We're going to use a function, that's something called the now function, to put in our date. The now function will put in the number of the corresponding system date based on the number of days since since 1900. So we're going to put in our now function, which is equals NOW open parentheses close parentheses. Now what that does is it puts in the date and time stamp, and we just want it to be date. So we're going to change the formatting. All right, so a couple different ways you can do the formatting. We come here to do format cells. It will take us to this alignment tab, which we're going to have to switch over to number. You can also use the number dialog box launcher here, but we want it to be the 4-digit year first, and then a 2-digit month and a 2-digit year. So I go to date, it'll be the 4-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day. Okay, then we'll click the OK button and you'll see that formatting change. Then we can come up here to the boundaries between H and I. If you double click, it will decrease that width of column I. It looks to about like 11 points. We are now ready to start creating our formulas for column B. Once we have those all in, we're going to use our fill handle to move those across the rest of the columns. Because we are needing some of our cell references to be absolute cell references and some of our cell references to be relative cell references, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about those. In your textbook there is a section, it's EX 3-5, which gives good explanations of absolute versus relative addressing. Absolute cell references are going to be cell references that refers back to a specific cell, whether once you have copied a formula from one column to the next column or from one row to the next row. And so to make a cell reference become an absolute cell reference, you have to place a $sign before a column letter and a row number. So for instance here, for our cost of goods sold, we are going to be multiplying our cost of goods sold, our revenue in January by our margin, by the percentage that we have down in our margin. Now, there's a little bit more to it than that, but I'll show you once we get into that. So for our formula that we're going to be doing here, we need an absolute cell reference to cell B19. So whenever we use cell B19, we'll have to make sure we have a $sign B and then a $sign 19. So that's what makes a cell reference an absolute cell reference, is by adding the $sign to it. Now, the relative cell references that we've been working with are just going to be regular like we've done. So it will be B4 without any $signs, and then when we use the B19, we will add the $signs to that. This way, when we copy the formula across the columns, the B4 that we have will change to C4, D4, E4, and F4 as we go across here. But where we have used B19, it will always refer back to cell B19 doing that formula across the different columns. So let's go ahead and put in our first formula here. So our cost of goods sold is going to be equals B4, and then we're going to use the asterisk for multiplication. And then in parentheses, we are going to do a subtraction. So 1 minus B19. Now, to make B19 the absolute cell reference that we need, we can press our F4 key. So we'll press that once, the dollar sign will show up in front of the B and in front of the 19. If you happen to hit that F4 key a second time, it will remove one of the dollar signs. If you press it a third time, it will switch the dollar sign. If you press it another time, it will bring it back to that relative cell references. So I show you that, so if you accidentally hit it more than once, you know you can just keep hitting it until it gets back to where you need it to be. So we'll need to end our formula here with the closed parentheses, and then we can either hit the enter button, press the enter key, or whatever. So this is what our formula will look like, and you'll notice that it's referring to B4, which is in blue, but you can't really see right now, and then B19. So if we move this across, I'm just going to move it one column over here, and then I move over here, you will see that's now referencing C4, but it's also coming back to B19, and that's what we want. So I'm going to undo that, and we'll fill those all at the same time. Our next formula that we need to create is the subtraction. We need to subtract the cost of goods sold from the revenue. And I know subtraction is sometimes a little difficult for people to grasp in Excel, and that is because of the way that the instructions usually tell you how to do a subtraction. It's like I just said, we need to subtract cost of goods sold from revenue. Because we list cost of goods sold first, people use that as their first cell reference, and we don't want to do that. We need to think of this subtraction like you did back in elementary school when you learned how to do subtraction. So you would write your larger number first, your smaller number second, put your subtraction sign in there. And so what I tell students to do is think of it that way. And so you'll want to write B4, which is your larger number, minus B5. And so you just need to think about it. And if you get a negative number, chances are great that you're probably not supposed to have a negative number. So a little light bulb should go on that that's not correct if you're seeing a negative number. Especially if you can logically look and say, okay, well, I made this much money and it cost me this much money to make that money, so my result should be a positive number. So while we're in B6, we're going to type the equal sign to start our formula, and then we'll type B4 minus B5. Neither of these need to be an absolute cell reference because they're going to need to change as we go across each column. So we can press our enter key, we'll see the results, and again, always a good idea to kind of check the results you get with what is in the textbook and make sure that they match up. We are ready to start getting our formulas together for our expenses. Our first one is going to be the bonus. This is the step that we need to use the if function for. The if function is a way to determine if they will receive their bonus or if they will not receive their bonus. So in your textbook, right after the absolute cell referencing, in EX 3-6, you will read more about the if function. I encourage you to do that. They give you great explanations there and examples to look at. The main thing that you need to remember about an if statement is that there are 3 parts to it. The first part is the logical test. The second part is what will show up in your cell if you have if that logical test is true. And the third part is what will return in that cell or show up in that cell if the logical test is false. So what we're going to be doing is determining if our revenue is greater than our sales revenue for bonus that we see down here in our assumptions table. If our revenue in row in row 4 is greater, then we will receive a bonus, and you'll see here our bonus is $5,000. So in B9, what should show up here once we have our if function typed in is $5,000. If you look up here at March, you should be able to determine this number is less than our sales revenue for bonus. So in March, we should receive a 0 in here because they're not going to earn that bonus. Now, to type your if statement or to insert an if function, I highly encourage you to use the insert function button. You can use that, or you can come over here to your auto sum and go to more functions that way. Either way, you will end up at this insert function dialog box. You might see in the most recently used that there's an if choice right listed there. If not, you should be able to go into the logical or probably statistical, I don't know. But you can always search for it other ways if you need to as well. So we're going to find the if statement, and the reason I encourage you to do the insert function is so that you don't have to type everything and get it exactly right with commas and parentheses and things like that. So our logical test is going to be, we need to determine if B4 is greater than or equal to B21. So our logical test will be B4, and then we're just going to use the greater than, which is the shift where the period key is, and then equal to. So B4 greater than or equal to B21, which is where we find our sales revenue for bonus. Now B21 has to be an absolute cell reference. So once we type in B21, we'll be able to press our F4 key, make that the absolute cell reference. You will notice out here to the right, it says that this is true. So when we get to our value if true line, we are going to type in not $5,000, but we are going to type in B20. Because if we determine that our bonus is too high, we may need to decrease it from 5,000. If we think we can increase it, we can increase the number here in B20, but then by using B20 in our value if true, it will change the results to the number that we have in B20. If we just use the number 5,000, anytime that value is true, it's always going to put 5,000 in there. It will not refer back to what's in B20. So B20 has to be an absolute cell reference. We'll put the dollar signs in there, and the value of false is going to be 0. It will always be 0 if you don't get the bonus. So it's okay to have that as just a number value that's put in there. So we'll click on the OK button, and then you will see that because this is a true statement, we have the bonus amount of 5,000 put in there. All right, so we're going to put the rest of these formulas in, and we will be referring to the data that's in our what if assumptions table. So anytime that you are using a cell reference of B19 through B25, you must make sure that it is an absolute cell reference. So for our salary, which is in B10, we're going to type equals B4 times B22. And then we'll press our F4 key, and then we can press our Enter key. In B11, we are going to type equals B4 times B23, and then press your F4 key. For marketing, B equals B4 times B24, make that absolute, and then for miscellaneous equals B4 times B25 and absolute. Okay, so if I go and look at my values version of my spreadsheet, you can see here anytime I have referenced B19 through B25, they all have dollar signs in them. So I'll go back to my regular version here, and we need to add up the total amount of our expenses. So this is just a simple sum here. So you can just double click your auto sum button. Okay, I've got a number wrong in here, so let me go back here and make sure I get it correct. Okay, so my miscellaneous, that's the one I had wrong. That should be 5%. And I think that is going to give me the right information. Yes, that looks better. Okay, then we're going to do another subtraction here. So we have to take our gross margin and then take away or subtract our total expenses. So we'll start out with equals B6 minus B14 to get our operating income. Now that we have all of our formulas and functions put in column B, we are going to be able to use our fill handle to fill all of those across through column G. We're going to stop in the month of June. So we will select B5 through B16, and we're going to use our fill handle to go all the way over through column G. And it should put all of that information in for us. Then we are going to sum these rows. So I already did this one up here, but I'll take it out. So what you're going to do is you're going to select H 4, 5, and 6. You're going to hold your control key down, and then you're going to select H9 through 14, and then also H16. So once we have all those selected, we can click the Auto Sum button. It will sum those up. I think we were supposed to leave H4 as it was, but if you took it out, you can redo that as well. So these should all be the sum of B4 through G4 or B5 through G5. So the row is going to change each time. So you can just double check those if you need to by looking at that formulas version. In your textbook, this is where it talks about the nested if function. So feel free to read through that. Again, just let me remind you, you will not be responsible for understanding the nested if function or having to do a nested if function. All right, so we have another column up here, column I, that says chart. We are going to add what's called a Sparkline chart. A Sparkline chart is just a real quick, small visual of how things have changed from January through June. So we want to make sure you can see columns B through I. So depending on the size of your screen, you may need to make your worksheet smaller so that you can see all of that. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to cell I4, and then we are going to come up to the Insert tab. This is where we typically insert our charts. Well, instead of doing charts, if you go a couple of sections over, there's a section for Sparklines. So we're going to click on the line button here in our Sparkline. So we'll click line, and then it's going to give you a little box asking you, what is the data range that you are wanting to use for this? And this is only for I4. So the data range we want to use is B4 through G4. You can type that in just as you see it there, B4 colon G4, or you can click and drag like I did with my mouse. You just need to make sure that you only get B4 through G4. You do not want to include that total column because then everything is going to be real little bitty tiny, and then at the very last part of this it's going to spike up really high. So if that happens, you'll need to undo and redo this step. So once we have this here, we'll click the OK button, and this is what our chart will look like. This is a line chart, so we start out with our revenue at almost $1.5 million. Then we have some low months, then it goes back up a little, and then it comes back down. So that's just an example of what your Sparkline will look like. Now that we have that done, we are also we're going to make some changes to it before we copy it. So we want to, in our style section here, we're going to click our More button, and we are going to find the blue Sparkline Style Accent 1. So lighter 40%. So I think these are still in order of accent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we'll go to the first column, and then we want the blue, I just lost it here, blue Sparkline Style Accent 1 Lighter 40%. So we'll click on that. You'll see a little bit of a change there, but probably not a whole lot. Now we're going to come over here to our I4. We're going to grab that little fill handle there, and we'll drag that down through I16. While we still have this range selected, I4 through I16, we're going to make some changes to our Sparkline. If you have clicked out of the range that you had selected, you will not see the Sparkline design tab to make your changes. So you will have to select that range again. Because it is a Sparkline, it should pop up to the Sparkline formatting tab. What we're going to do is change from a line to a column. So now this identifies the month of January with the first bar, February, then March it goes down, April it comes back up, and May and June are a little bit less. So that will let you see the column arrangement of that. You can also do some other things with your Sparkline tab open here. We're not going to do anything, but you can play around with that and see what some of those other things will look like. The next thing we're going to do is do some formatting to our worksheet to make it a lot easier to read. You may have noticed as we started that we are not using the entire range to merge and center our data for our title and subtitle. So that's going to look a little bit different as we get started with that. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select B4 through H4. So let me find B4 through H4. We're going to hold down our Control key, and then we are going to select the range B6 through H6. And then row 9, row 14, and row 16. So all of those rows, column B through column H. We are going to need to go to our home ribbon. We are going to go to our number section here, and we're going to use this dialog box launcher because we want to format these with the currency style, but we are also going to make sure that we have the $sign as our symbol. We do want to have 2 decimal places. And then where we have our negative numbers, we're going to change that to our third option, which is the negative number will be in black font with parentheses around it. And then we'll click the OK button. And now all of those are going to be formatted with those floating dollar signs, which are right next to the number. If they were negative, they would be in black font with parentheses. We're going to select B5 through H5. We can hold our control key down, and then we're going to get B10 through H10 to format these. We'll go back into our dialog box launcher. We're going to choose currency. And this time it should be set up the way we want it, 2 decimal places, no symbol, but we are going to need to change the negative numbers to that third option where they will be in, in this one we're choosing the last option, red font color. For our negative numbers. Oh, I think we were supposed to do that for the other one too. So we'll have to go back and change that. All right. So we'll click on OK for this. Now, in order for Sam to not grade this incorrectly, you will need to go back, to select these. And then come in here and change this to the red, the fourth option there, because we want those to be in red numbers with red parentheses. All right, then we'll just say OK to that, and it'll be good. All right, so now we're going to go up to our worksheet titles here in A1. Oh, I'm sorry. The first thing we're going to do is select all of column A. So we'll use our, we'll click the column A with our mouse. It selects everything in column A. We'll change our font to be a bold font. And then we're going to select A1. And we're going to change the font size to 28. We'll go to A2. We're going to change the font size to 16. And then we're going to select A1 through I2. And we are going to use the fill to the dark blue text, lighter 80% as the background for that. We are also going to change the font color to dark blue accent 1. All right, so then you can just click out of that so you can see what that will look like. Now we are going to select A3 through I3. And even though there's nothing in A3, we want to make sure we select that and apply the heading 3 style. So then we'll come up here to our styles and we're going to find heading 3. We're going to select A6 through H6 and we'll hold our control key down. A14 through H14 and A16 through H16. While these are selected, we are going to come up and use our style, the total style. Then we're going to come back and select A4. we want to apply the same fill color that we used up here in the headings. Since that is the color that's in our little paint can here, we can just click that, and then we're also going to change the font color to this dark blue. Now you probably won't see a whole lot of change since we're going from black to dark blue, but just know that it does need to be changed. Now that we have our formatting set in cell A4, we are going to use that format painter to copy that formatting to other parts of our worksheet. So while A4 is selected, we're going to come up to our format painter, and we're going to use a double click when we select this. The double click is going to allow us to use the format painter multiple times. If you just click it once, you can only use it one time. If you click it again, you turn it off. But if you double click it, you're going to be able to use it. In this case, we want to click in cell A6, and then we are going to come down to A16 through H16. And now what you have to do is, because when we applied the format painter, we lost our currency formatting. So we're going to turn our format painter off. You can do that by coming up here and clicking on it. You can also press your escape key to stop using the format painter. Now we're going to have to go back to B16 through through H16, and then we're going to have to come up here and do the currency style again. We do need the dollar signs, and we want the negative numbers in red, so that fourth option. I'm not sure why they don't have us wait and format that after we've change the fill of it, but regardless, they don't have us do it that way. So you have to go back and change it. All right, we're going to go to cell A18, and we're going to format our what if assumptions table now. So in cell A18, we want to change this to a 9-point font. We also want to italicize and underline A18. Then we're going to select the range B9 through B25. We're going to change this to a 9-point font. We'll come back up and we're going to get A18 through B25. And we want to apply that same background of the light blue and the same font color of the dark blue text, accent 1. So that is formatted the way we want it to be formatted. Not sure who thinks 9-point font is an option you should have on a spreadsheet, but nevertheless, that is what we have. So that's why they make bifocals, I guess, and readers. Now that we have our worksheet set up the way we want it, we're going to add a chart. And when we add our chart in this time, we're going to be using a clustered column chart, but the way they have us do this is by using the recommended charts feature. So when we have gone in to create charts before, we come up here to insert. You make sure that the range is selected that you want selected, and then you come here and you pick a chart. Well, what we are going to do here is we're going to select our range. and we just want to go through the month of June. We are not going to include the total in our chart that we're having. So we hold down, or we select the range A3 through G3, and then we're also going to hold our control key down, and we are going to get A9 through G13. Now you have to get A3 in your selection because that kind of helps set the parameters that you're using information from column A all the way to column G. Even though there's not anything in A3, it still has to be selected. So since I already moved to the Insert tab, that's what should be showing now. If you don't have that showing, go ahead and click on your Insert tab. And then in your chart section, instead of just going to the columns, we're going to go to the recommended charts. And it is going to recommend that we use this clustered column chart. That is what we want to use, so we can just click the OK button, and you will see that chart show up in your worksheet here. So it's covering up some of your data, but that is not a problem. We are just going to click on the Move Chart button, which is in the chart design. That should be the tab that comes up once your chart is drawn. So all the way to the far right hand side, it's going to say Move Chart. You want to put as a new sheet, and here you are going to type in the title of that new sheet, which is Expense Chart Sheet. Now again, spelling is very important. You need to make sure you type this all in correctly, or Sam won't grade it correctly. We'll click our OK button. Now if you look down here at your sheet tabs, you'll notice that it still says Sheet 1, and then we have our expense chart sheet. So if we click back and forth between them, we're working here with the chart sheet now. So we're going to make some changes to our chart. First thing is we're going to change this title from where it says Chart Title. We are going to type in 6-month projected EXPEN expenses. Now, the hyphen is a thing that throws a lot of people. It's just 6-month. There's no space in between there. So make sure you get that typed in correctly. Also, make sure you type projection and expenses correctly. There is an S on the end of expenses, so make sure that you get that. Those are all things that throw students scores sometimes. We're going to go ahead and click and drag across our selected our title here so the text is selected. And then you can use your little mini toolbar if you want to. We're going to underline this, and then you can click outside to deselect that. You can go back to your Home tab and use the underline from that if you want to, but since it's your mini toolbar shows up, that might be the best way to format that. All right, so to add our data labels, we do need to have our chart selected, and then we'll click on our chart elements, that plus sign there, and then we'll click on data labels, and we are going to use the outside end for our data labels. So at the top of each of those columns, you will see the dollar amount that is assigned to them. Then we can click on that Chart Elements button to make that all go away. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to apply a filter. So all the data is still going to be there, but we're going to reduce it so that we're only seeing certain parts of it. We're going to take the bonus and the salary out of what we're viewing right now. So you can remove the check marks from those two, and then you have to click the Apply button. Now what this does, and then we can click on our filters to close that. What this does is it gets rid of those bonus and salary, so we're looking at just kind of our more variable expenses, or the expenses that we can kind of manipulate a little bit more as far as saving money or spending more with different things. And it also allows those data labels to be read a little bit more easier. All right, we are going to add an access title to our chart. So we can click outside of our chart anywhere, and then we are going to click our Chart Elements button, and then we're going to go where it says Access Titles, and then you can get the little fly out, and we want just the primary vertical to show up. And so that is showing up over here on the left-hand side, and it just is called Access Title right now. Okay, we are going to click on the Chart Elements button to remove that. And then we're going to come over here, we're going to select our placeholder. Then you can click and drag across the text, and then we're just going to type a $sign in there for right now. Then we're going to right-click on our Access Title, and that will give us a little shortcut menu. We're going to go down to Format Access Title, and then on your Format Access Title, to make changes to that, it will show up in a little pane over here on the far right-hand side. You will need to make sure you read your textbook closely for the different things that you'll be doing here. So our next step, it says click the Title Options tab. So here is the title options versus the text options. So if the text options is what's selected, you need to make sure you click on title options. That's what it's saying when you see that in your textbook. This is your fill and line. The pentagon there is your effects, and then the square with the plus sign in it is what's called the size and properties, and that's what we want to click on, is the size and properties. And then you should see the alignment. If it is compressed, or what do they call that? Condensed, I don't know. You can expand it by clicking on the little triangle there. Then we're going to come down where it says Text Direction, and we want to change it so that it is horizontal. And then you can click on the Close button to close out of this Format Access Title. You could also leave this open because you're probably going to be using it some more, but it doesn't make any difference. When you make another selection, it will pop up as well. So you can go ahead and close it if you want to. We're going to change our chart style right now. So remember, you can do that using the Chart Styles button. Over here, this goes in order style 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You can also use the Chart Design ribbon. When you have your chart selected, it should open up either to the chart design or the format. So we have our styles listed here as well. They start with style 1 and they go across. We are going to be using style 6. So if you can see style 6 on your ribbon, then you can just select it. If for some reason you're not seeing it, you may have to use the More button to find Style 6 to be able to select it. All right, so now we're going to come to our vertical axis, which has our dollar values in it, and we're going to right click. You can right click on any of those values, and then we're going to go to that shortcut menu that is Format the Axis. So again, that's popping up over here. All right, I got to close out of my chart styles here. And this pane can be expanded or decreased. So if it's really out here far, you can make it a little bit smaller if you want to. So we need to make sure that in our format axis we have the axis options selected. And you can see if you click on this drop down arrow here, you can change the different parts of the chart that you can make changes to. So we have the axis options, and then we want to also make sure that let me find my place here. The number is visible. So what you have here is you have axis options. If you collapse that, then you'll be able to find the number section a little bit easier. You can click the triangle to expand it, and what we're wanting to do here is we're wanting to remove the decimal places. So instead of having all these zeros over here, if we remove those decimal places, make that 0, then we won't have that all show up on our chart. Now we can close out of our format axis. Let me see, do you have to change? Yeah, so when you close out of that, it will take those decimal places off for you. We're done working with our data or our chart right now. So we're going to come back to our filter, and we're going to remove that filter. So what you can do is let's click in the series select all to deselect all and then reselect all. And so all of them will be showing back again. So we'll click the apply. And then we'll come up here to our chart elements. We're going to go into our data labels, and we can just take that check mark out of there to remove those data labels for us. We are going to change the color of our chart expense sheet tab to dark blue, text 2. So we'll get our tab color, and we want dark blue text 2, which is in that first row, the fourth column over. And then we're going to come to sheet 1, and we're going to double click this, and we're going to type in the sheet name 6-month financial projection. You can press your enter key, and then we're going to right click on this, and we're going to change the tab color to light turquoise background 2. So that will be the third option in that first row. We're going to reorder our sheets. You'll see that the expense chart sheet, when it came in, it is to the left of our 6-month financial projection. We want to change the location of that. So you'll see a little black triangle, downward pointing triangle. When you see that at the end, you can just drop your expense chart sheet. So just move it around till you get them in the order that you want them. Then it shows us how to check the spelling on multiple sheets. Since we have typed information on our chart and our spreadsheet, we can select both of those and do the spell check on all of them at the same time. So we have our 6-month financial projection as our active sheet. And then we're going to hit the Control Home because we want to go up to cell A1, or you can just click in cell A1 if you can see that on your screen. That way we are at the beginning of the spreadsheet, and then we're going to, with our Control key held down, we're going to select the expense chart sheet. So now both of our sheets are selected. We can come up to our Review tab, click our spell checking, and it's going to stop on the name it doesn't know, so we can ignore that. And then if it stops on anything else, you can make sure you make those changes as necessary. Now, I will remind you that when you use a start file for your homework projects, and you are asked to run the spell checker, I can guarantee you that the downloaded file that had the data in it to begin with probably has some typing errors in it on purpose, just to make sure that you do that step. So make sure that you are following and doing that spell check when it asks you to do that. Now, along with checking the spelling of both worksheets, since they are both still selected, if you go into the print, you will see that, first of all, let me change this to landscape so we don't have 400 pages. Okay, let me see if that helps. Not really. Okay, so I should have one page with my worksheet and one page with my, oh, I wonder if I have one of those, the whole thing selected or something. I don't know. Okay, doesn't look like it. So if I go into print, what I'm wanting to show you is that, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so this will be our worksheet part, and then we should only have 2 pages here, so I don't know why I'm having 21 pages of stuff, but it probably will be the last one here. Okay, I don't know. Let me see here. If I go into I don't know why I'm printing all of those pages. So, interesting. What you can do to get around that is, why it's printing all of those. You may just have to do this separately. Well, if yours isn't working, mine isn't working right. It should not be having all of those pages. And it may be because the printer I have selected is not the correct printer. So that could be my problem also. But anyway, you should be able to have both of these selected, and then it will print both of them just by going in there once. If you need to ungroup them. Let me see here. All right, so they're both selected now. You should be able to do a right click and choose Ungroup Sheets, and then they won't be grouped together anymore. So now if I were to go in to print, I'm still going to have a bajillion pages, but I can say only print the active sheet, and if I print only one page to one page, it should only print that one page. Again, I don't know why it's showing 21 pages, but if you go to your expense chart, this is one thing I want to show you about printing. When you go in to print your chart sheet, because it is a chart sheet, it will print the chart on the entire page. So just keep that in mind if you're needing to do any printing for charts. Okay, so now I just realized why this is printing all of these pages. Remember when we selected column A to do a bold, and we bolded that? I think that is why we're getting this. So what you can do if you only want to print this section is in your page layout tab, you can come to this print area and choose set print area. And then when you go into print, it will only print that area that you have selected. So that will get it down to that one page by one page. So that's the only thing I can think of right now. But you will want to clear the print area so that if you need to print something else that's in your worksheet, you can do that. Okay, that's way more than we needed to know probably about printing. So then they have you go in and do a zoom, and I would make sure that your zoom is set to 75%, and you can do that by going to your view tab, and when you click on that zoom icon for magnification, you can change it to 75% and then say OK, because I think that this is one of the modules where it grades that you have the zoom to a certain percent. Oh, but then no, it has you go back and change it to 100%. So maybe not. The next part in your textbook, I'm going to move out back to normal view here. We are going to, in our View tab, click on our Split option. And what this does is it splits your window up into 4 different panes. And so you'll see these gray bars, and you can move those wherever you like to help split up your screen. But what you can do is when you're in this first quadrant, you can scroll up and you can scroll over. So that you can see certain parts of the worksheet. What you need to remember, if you are on the left-hand side, your scroll bar for left to right is on the left-hand section. So if you're needing to scroll left and right on that section, you can also, what I'm going to show you here is that you can have the same thing showing up 4 times on your page if you want to. But one of the things that most people want to do when they're working with larger worksheets is kind of cut down some of that stuff in the middle so that they're able to see the beginning of this and as well as the end of it. Or move around to different parts in different sections of the worksheet. So that is how you can split your screen up. Now, to get rid of these, maybe you only want this split between left and right. So you could take this gray split bar that's going horizontal, drag it up to the letters and let go. And so now you only have the split that is splitting your screen to a left side and a right side. If you want to get rid of it altogether, you can come back up here and click the split button on your view tab, and it will remove that split. The other thing that you will do, and you will need to do this for your homework, and you probably have some training exercises on this as well, is to do what's called freeze panes. Freeze panes is shown here, but it says that it freezes a portion of the sheet to keep it visible while you scroll through the rest of the sheet. So what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to keep rows 1, 2, and 3 visible, but we also want to keep column A visible. So we need to go to the right of column A and below row 3. So that would be cell B4. Once I'm in cell B4, I can click my Freeze Panes button and then choose the option that says Freeze Panes. And now if I scroll, you still see column A. It scrolls so you don't see the rows that have scrolled up, but you still see column A. You always see rows 1, 2, and 3. So likewise, if I move across this way, I can keep going so that I get to my totals is the only thing that's showing all of my data that's here. So the freeze panes shows up with a lighter crossbar based on wherever you were when you chose to do that. Now, you don't have to be in cell B4 to remove the freeze panes. I don't think so. We'll just click up here on freeze panes and we'll choose unfreeze panes, and it will remove that and you'll see your whole document again. I think in your homework, or maybe the training, you only freeze a row, so you would need to be below the row that you want, or no, it says keep the top row. So you would keep the top row frozen. If you only wanted, so this would keep row 1. If you wanted to keep if you wanted to keep only rows 1, 2, and 3, you would come to A4, and then when you do freeze panes, it would keep all of rows 1, 2, and 3 and let you scroll up. So anyway, those are some things you can play around with as you're working on that. All right, so once you've played around with that a little bit, then you can unfreeze all of your panes so that everything is available to you. All right, this last little part that we're going to look at is where you can see the power of Excel work. We are going to use our what if assumptions table down here to make some changes so that we can see what our bottom line here at this end of the 6 months is going to look like. So right now, our operating income at the end of these 6 months is $3,323,000 and change. So we can say, okay, that is great, but can we get it to be more? How can we get it to be more? What of these can we make a change to? Or maybe you can say, you know what? It's a very good bottom line. We probably could afford to pay a higher salary or make our bonuses greater or decrease the sales revenue needed for a bonus so that we can pay out more in a bonus. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some changes here. We're going to go to B20. We're going to change that to 7,500. Because we formatted that with our decimal places earlier, you just have to type in 7,500. It will format that as needed. Then we are going to go to B22, which is our salary, and we're going to change that to 25. Maybe it already was 25. I can't remember. I think it was 20. And then we're going to go to B25, which is 5%. This is the one I had wrong. And we're going to change it to 3.5. So by making those changes, we've increased the salary, we've increased the bonus, we've decreased our expenses for our miscellaneous expenses. So we have gone from $3,323,000 and change to now right at $3,042,000. So just by making those changes, you can see that we lost, or we used about $300,000 more dollars for this 6-month period. So that's the thing that you can do with Excel to see, maybe your bottom line is not where you want it to be and you need to back things off a little bit. So you can play around with things like that as well. Okay, I think this is where they want you to, save your workbook here. If you haven't done so, make sure you do a save here because this is the worksheet that they want you to turn in. However, we're going to do one more step here in using a tool called GoalSeek. What GoalSeek does is it allows you to set a goal. In our case, we want our total operating income at the end of this 6 months to be $3.5 million. And we're going to do that by changing the amount that we spend in our site rental. So right now that's set to 10%. So in order to make this happen, we have to first select what cell is it that we want to set our specific goal at. Well, that is cell H16. We want that cell to read $3.5 million, okay? Or $3,500,000, however you look at that. So we're going to be in cell H16, and we're going to have to change to our data tab. This is a tab that we don't use hardly at all, but our data tab, over in the forecast section, there's a what if analysis. When you click on that button, you will see that it says GoalSeek. When you click on GoalSeek, you get the little dialog box. It's asking you to set cell. Which cell is it that we're wanting to set the value of? And that is filled in as H16 because I already had that selected. We want to set the value to $3,500,000. And we want to do that by changing B23. Now, we probably want to make that an absolute cell reference just because it's always going to come back to that. And I think if you actually clicked on it, if you did a collapse and clicked on it, then it would put those in there for you. But regardless, make sure that you have the dollar signs put in there. So we're going to click our OK button one time, and you will see that it does some changes. But you'll see that the GoalSeek status box is still here. You have the option of hitting OK or cancel. We're going to hit cancel because we don't want these changes to be saved. Now, if you do hit the OK button, you can always come back and hit the undo button here. But if you're following along with your textbook, you don't want to press that OK button. They just have you click the cancel button. That is because they want this version that you see on my screen right now before we did the goal seek to be what you turn in. So I say that because there is a training question that goes along with this, and a lot of students will get to the part where they have typed in this information and they've gotten the goal seek, and they think that's all they have to do because here we hit cancel. Well, in your training, you're going to have to go ahead and click the OK button for it to go ahead and go through and count it and go to the next question. But for here, you're going to hit cancel. You just saved it beforehand, but if you feel like you need to save it again, you can go ahead and do that. The last little bits of your chapter have a look at what's called insights and then accessibility, which is good information to know, but really there's not anything that we really do for this. So you'll save this, go ahead and submit it, then make any changes necessary to increase those scores.